Hey, how's it going all? Just back again with another video in line with the ones that I've been posting recently about the sequence of the end times. And so I'm going through really the entire Bible and prophetic books and ones that are not typically known to be prophetic, but looking for, any references to the end times and then more specifically the sequence of them and looking for, validation, confirmation, consistency with the presentation that I posted on the book of Revelation. And so Second Esdras to me is an excellent book. It goes into a lot of detail about the end times and very, very specific details of the sequence. And, I'm going to go through a few of those chapters here, 4 of them, and then, walk people through what it's saying and then show consistency with this past, presentation that I've done on the book of Revelation, where I'm teaching here that there's a 3.5 year period leading up to Great Tribulation, which I will refer to as tribulation. And we're living in that period right now. And these are the days that will be cut short for the elect's sake. So it may not extend all the way up to 3.5 years. But this 3.5 year period following it is called the Great Tribulation. This is going to be unrest everywhere, on earth, spurned by the 2 witnesses that are prophesying and sending plagues on the earth. So this 3.5 year Great Tribulation is 2 witnesses prophesying, and then it'll also be where they're administering plagues on the earth, according to Revelation 16. And then after that, we have the wrath of God. And the wrath of God is began with a large earthquake, a massive earthquake in America. And it's literally described as a great earthquake. And this is the time where God's elect will return with Christ and his angels to destroy the people with the mark of the beast and everybody that's on earth who will be on God's left-hand side. And so the sequence can also be summarized by woes in the book of Revelation. The first woe has passed. It's World War I, World War II, and then the 9/11 false flag event. And then there is a time now where we're living in tribulation of this new world order. And then the second woe is described as this 3.5 year Great Tribulation period. And then the third woe will be God's wrath. And the amazing thing about this book, and it complements the book of Daniel, obviously the book of Revelation as well, but the book of Daniel as well, because it gives us an explanation of what's happening in these 1290 days that are written of in the book of Daniel. And also in Daniel it says that there's 1335 days. And so without Esdras, it's very difficult to get an understanding of what these extra 30 days are for and then what this extra 45 days is for. And we get an explanation of what that is. So just keep those timelines in mind. I'll flip back to them when it's necessary. But that's really the sequence of events that we're, quote, looking for. So 2nd Esdras chapter 12 reads, "While the lion was saying these words to the eagle, I looked and saw that the remaining head had disappeared. The 2 wings that had gone over it rose up and set themselves up to rain, and their rain was brief and full of tumult. When I looked again, they were already vanishing. The whole body of the eagle was burned, and the earth was exceedingly terrified." And so this eagle represents a power structure that's on earth that will cover the entire earth. And on this eagle, there's going to be various heads, which represent kings in specific parts of the earth. And so the eagle is just described as one that has dominion and a broad dominion over the entire earth. "Then I woke up in great perplexity of mind and great fear, and I said to my spirit, 'You have brought this upon me because you search out the ways of the Most High. I am still weary in mind and very weak in my spirit, and not even a little strength is left in me, because of the great fear with which I have been terrified tonight. Therefore I will now entreat the Most High that he may strengthen me to the end.'" The interpretation of this vision is given to Esdras here. "Then I said, O sovereign Lord, if I have found favor in your sight, and if I have been accounted righteous before you beyond many others, and if my prayer has indeed come up before your face, strengthen me and show me, your servant, the interpretation and meaning of this terrifying vision, so that you may fully comfort my soul. For you have judged me worthy to be shown the end of the times and the last events of the times." So again, it's written explicitly here. This is what everything from this point forward is referring to. There's no layered prophecies here. They obviously could apply to things that have happened in the past, because God, there's nothing new under the sun. He operates in a similar way throughout all generations. But again, we're being told here This specifically, what we're about to be told, is relevant to the end times. Specifically, he said to me, this is the interpretation of this vision that you have seen. The eagle that you saw coming up from the sea is the fourth kingdom that appeared in a vision to your brother Daniel. It's very important that Daniel is referenced here, because the book of Daniel will not make sense unless a person understands the book of Esdras. And I'll explain what I mean by that. But it was not explained to him as I now explain to you, or have explained it. There's more detail being added about, like I said, the 1290 days and the 1335 days. The days are coming when a kingdom shall rise on earth, and it shall be more terrifying than all the kingdoms that have been before it. There is a one world government in place right now. We get that for free with flat earth. We get that for free with the fake moon landings and all that kind of stuff. We get that for free with the manipulation in financial markets. However you approach it, it's very, very obvious we have a one world government in place right now. And 12 kings shall reign in it, one after another. So there's, broadly speaking, God is saying here through Esdras, there is an eagle which represents God's left-hand side, the power structure that will have this one world government. And then there's going to be individual kings who, rule in different parts of the world that will be a part of this one world structure. And 12 kings shall reign in it, one after another. But the second that is to reign shall hold sway for a longer time than any other one of the 12. This is the interpretation of the 12 kings that you saw. As for your hearing a voice that spoke, coming not from the eagle's head, but from the midst of its body, this is the interpretation. In the midst of the time of that kingdom, great struggle shall arise, and it shall be in danger of falling. Nevertheless, it shall not fall then, but shall regain its former power. As for your seeing 8 little wings clinging to its wings, this is the interpretation. 8 kings shall arise in it, whose time shall be short and their years swift. 2 of them shall perish when the middle of its time draws near, and 4 shall be kept for the time when its end approaches, but 2 shall be kept until the end. So we're seeing that it's a group of kings, and the number is dwindling as we get closer and closer to the end times. And so it's saying here, in the end, we're looking for 2 kings that will be preserved at the very, very end. As for your seeing 3 heads at rest, this is the interpretation. In the last days the Most High will raise up 3 kings, and they shall renew many things in it, and shall rule the earth. So now we're zeroing in on the last 3, and its inhabitants more oppressively than all who were before them. This is the world that we live in right now. I don't think anybody who has just basic understanding of the world would refute this. I posted many videos recently about the wealth inequality worldwide, and how a handful of people have more wealth than billions of other people, and all that kind of stuff. And so that's what's going on right now, and that's the way oppression works, is through wealth inequality, and then slavery, and in this case financial enslavement. And I hope no one would argue that we're living in those times right now. Therefore they are called the heads of the eagle, because it is they who shall sum up his wickedness and perform his last actions. So anybody with common sense wouldn't have to have, whoever believes in any God would have to believe that this amount of inequality is for a specific purpose. And like it says here, this is for the God of the Bible to sum up the wickedness and perform his last actions. And so it's the final expression of God, of evil on earth that God wants. As for your seeing that the large head disappeared, one of the 2 kings shall die in his bed, but in agonies. And so if we look up, if you just do a search on kings and people who have died in their sleep, it's not a common thing. And so if you look up George VI, who was the king of the UK, and he died in February 6, 1952. There's many articles, not just one, but if you read about this individual, he died in his sleep, and this was a well-documented thing. And then his daughter is now the queen, this is fairly recent history, so it's not that long ago. And so this kind of puts us in a position of knowing where we are, in the end times. And so this is his daughter, who's the queen of the UK, or Britain, or whatever you call it. And so that makes sense as well, because if you look at the history of the currencies worldwide, the British pound was the world reserve currency, for many years, and then it stopped being the world reserve currency when the U.S. dollar took over. And so this is that was the sort of beginning of the decline of British rule on Earth, and then we start to see after that, India started gaining independence, and their strength, their grip on the world started loosening everywhere, not just on the world reserve currency. And so this is, again, Bible prophecy. And this is the amazing thing about Esdras and really the God of the Bible, is that there is obviously aspects of this being ambiguous and vague, but he also gives us clues that allow us to pin it down to the time periods that are appropriate. And in this case, in our recent history. And so if you can accept that that king that died, there were three strong leaderships, ruling leadership on earth was, Britain, America, and then the Middle East. One of them is now gone, according to this. And then, but for the two who remain, the sword shall devour them. And so we have America, and the countries of the Middle East, if we just lump them together as sort of the Arab nations. The entire world is subject to those two groups in some way, and so people will say, well, what about China? Well, China is completely dependent on the American dollar because they're the ones who own a majority of our treasuries and stuff. So China and America, I would actually say, are literally inextricably linked just because they're producing a majority of the goods that we consume. And that is also Bible prophecy in Revelation 17 and 18. And so the whole world is subject to these two heads, like it's written here. For the sword of one shall devour him who is with him, but he also shall fall by the sword in the last days. So what it's saying here is, again, what's prophesied in Revelation, that there's going to be a group of nations that will hate the whore, the prostitute, which is America, and will burn it with fire. And then that group who burned America, the rest of the world will be subject to them, and then they will also be destroyed, by Jesus Christ himself, with his angels and his elect. And so that is the sequence of events, and that is, again, consistent with the book of Revelation. As for you, you're seeing two little wings passing over to the head, which was on the right side. This is the interpretation. It is these whom the Most High has kept for the eagle's end. This was the reign which was brief and full of tumult, as you have seen. And as for the lion, and so that reign, that rulership is very brief, because when you go from two heads down to one, that is during the Great Tribulation period, and then the end of it is marked by America being destroyed, and then there's just the wrath of God after that. So there is a very, very brief time that one head will remain, and that's given us, we're given insight into that as only being 30 days. As for the lion whom you saw rousing up out of the forest and roaring and speaking to the eagle and reproving him for his unrighteousness and for all his words that you have heard, this is the Messiah whom the Most High has kept until the end of days, who will arise from the offspring of David and will come and speak with them. He will denounce them for their ungodliness and for their wickedness, and will display before them their contemptuous dealings. For first he will bring them alive before his judgment seat, and when he has reproved them, then he will destroy them. But in mercy he will set free the remnant of my people, those who have been saved throughout my borders, and he will make them joyful until the end comes, the day of judgment, of which I spoke to you at the beginning. And so before God destroys the whole world and does this destruction, he will set free a remnant of people who have been saved throughout his borders everywhere across earth, and he will make them joyful until the end comes. Well, what does that mean? That should be the end, isn't it? No, God takes his elect away and he preserves them. That is the, quote, first end. Like it says in Matthew 24, that the elect will be, those who endure till the end will be saved. And then, so that is the first, quote, end. And then Jesus says the gospel will be preached unto all nations, and then the end will come. And so this salvation that he's describing here is the end that Jesus describes of those who endure till the end. And then what it says here, when they will be made joyful until the end comes, the day of judgment, that is the final destruction, the wrath of God. And so that's what it's referring to here. And that is where God, his angels, and the elect are cleaning up the whole earth. This is the dream that you saw, and this is its interpretation. And you alone were worthy to learn this secret of the Most High. Therefore write all these things that you have seen in a book, put it in a hidden place, and you shall teach them to the wise among your people, whose hearts you know are able to comprehend and keep these secrets. But as for you, wait here 7 more days, so that you may be shown whatever it pleases the Most High to come to you. Then he left me. And so this is a good summary of the end times. And so this 2nd Esdras chapter 12 is incredible, because if a person can accept that George the Sixth, let's look for some numerology here. I'm sure that we'll find a lot. First of all, George G is 33, and that's 6 if you add them together. And he was George the Sixth, so we have 666. Frederick Arthur George, F is 6 in numerology. So his G is 33 is 6, so his name is 66. And this is a bit lewd, but if you take the Albert out and go Frederick Albert Arthur George, you can tell what his initials are as well. And so, this is not shocking, that these individuals are related to 66 and on God's left-hand side. But anyway, if a person can accept that this is the king that is being referred to here, that dies in their sleep. Sorry, I'll just trying to search for the term sleep. Yeah, because it I can't remember where that was. Yeah, shall die in it. Sorry, I was looking for dies, but I'm talking about this verse right here. You can see that here in, again, 26, 26, 66, the Bible is littered with numerology, and it's not a coincidence. I know that I keep bringing it up, and it might be irritating to people, but it is not by accident. Everything that God does, again, this is all this thing. We're living out an expression of God's mind, is all interrelated. So verse 2:6, which is 66. If you ever see 36, that's 36666. Again, I'll read 26. As for your seeing that the large head had disappeared, one of the kings shall die in his bed, but in agonies. That is referring to George the Sixth. Again, George 666. And so that means that we're living in those days. And again, it's not shocking. There's no way that these things can happen in the future. I mean, this would mean that everything would have to be destroyed and built back up again and all that kind of stuff. So we're living in the days where there are 2 major power structures on Earth, and we see jawboning between them almost every day, in the news. And so, this is what's being described here in Esdras are the days that we're living in now. And again, not a shocker. They follow the sequence of events as I've outlined in the book of Revelation. And so I'm going to stop this video here and then go through the other chapters in a separate video. Hope everyone's doing well. Bye.